Hi everyone, and welcome to Parent Tip Tuesday. Today's tip is all about painting with your preschooler. It can be such a fun but messy activity, but also a really great learning experience for your child as well. We all know the standard ways of painting. You've got your fingers, you've got your paintbrushes, you've got paper, but I want to share with you some other ways to go about the experience today as well. We're going to talk about different types of paints that can be used, different surfaces to paint on, and then different objects to paint with. Before we do any of that though, let's talk about keeping your house clean. I might be the only one of us that still gets a newspaper, but I put this down because it is a great absorber. So you can put this down over the surface and it will absorb the paint, especially if you use multiple layers. But also what I've been using in the videos with the kids is I just have this plastic tablecloth that I've had around forever and ever. You can get them cheaply at the dollar store or wherever, and the wonderful thing about them is they're reusable. They do clean up real nicely. You can toss it into a closet and pull it out the next time. So this is also a great alternative just to keep the table, whatever surface your child is on, a little bit cleaner and a little bit neater. So that's where I want to begin. Now let's talk about the fun part. What are some things that your child can paint with other than fingers and paintbrushes? Since those are standard things though, let's start there. Finger painting is such a fun sensory experience for a child. But if you have a child who cannot tolerate that kind of sensory experience, something that you can try is a glove. I've got just a latex glove here, rubber glove, whatever you might have. If they're willing to put that on, then they can still get the experience without actually having to touch the paint. If this is too much for them, you can also put the paint inside of a Ziploc bag and seal it closed, maybe with packing tape or something else, and then they still get the feel of pushing their hand through the paint without actually having to touch it. Eventually they'll get to the point where they're able to, but these are some alternatives in the meantime. As far as brushes go, because brushes are standard and necessary, there are just the typical paint brushes, the thicker ones, thinner ones. You can get all different shapes and sizes. It's fun to experiment with different kinds because they all will leave different stroke marks and fill in differently. So let your child experiment, have a few different on hand. A fun thing to have for children is an adult paintbrush, the kind that we use to paint a room with. Let them hold that, let them feel that and see. Also, paint rollers that adults use. Those are a lot of fun as well. You can get them with a teeny tiny little roller head on it, and you can use those on paper or whatever, but also those adult tools, you can take those outside. Give them a bucket of water and let them paint the house, let them paint the car, whatever you want, the sidewalk. So those are a couple different brush alternatives. How about this one? Paint with a toothbrush, another alternative. How about a pastry brush? These are, again, all different. This one's rubbery, gives the child a different sensory experience just as they explore this. Dip it into the paint and then try it and see. It also gives them, when you give them different things to hold, different grip experiences. So they're expanding their abilities to hold on to different things. Combs are fun. Got a fine tooth and a wide tooth. Put some paint on a paper and let them just kind of design through it. Let them see what they can create. Fun things. If you have cars, which I'm sure you all do, put some paint on a piece of paper and let them drive the car through and make some tracks. Different one to try. Tinfoil, balled up tinfoil. This too, if you have a sensory child, you can have them just hold on to the edge and then they can dip it and paint without actually having to get their hands messy in the paint. What else have I got? Legos. Duplos in particular. They're a nice big surface. Stamp and paint. They can move it around. They can make tracks again. Just another thing to do. We've got a feather. Another type of painting to do. Q-tip. Multiple uses. You can use it as a brush. You can use it as a dot. You can make snowflakes. You can make raindrops. Whatever you want. Different ways of doing that. I have plastic animals here. You probably have some of those lying around. Let them walk through the paint. Let them make different tracks on the paper with your child. And speaking of that, let your child walk through the paint. Doesn't always have to be with hands. Go outside, throw an old sheet down, an old shower curtain. Let your child walk into a tub of paint and then let them make footprints, make a different design. They can get hands and feet involved and do both things at the same time. Something else that we all have lying around the house, vegetables. If you have broccoli, they make great leaves and treetops. Just take the head of the broccoli, dip it in some paint, and then put it on whatever branches you've made, whatever. Right now you could use fall colors, make some beautiful fall leaves getting ready to fall down. Peppers, cut them in half, make some prints that way. If you buy the carrots with the leaf still on the end, or celery leaves, all that kind of stuff can be used as a paintbrush. All different kinds of things you can find around the house that you can just explore with your child. When the child does this kind of exploration, it's making connections up in their brain, and learning is taking place while they're having fun. One trick that we've learned over the years, this is just the bottom of a water bottle. Could be any kind of plastic bottle. Just cut off the top, and two things. First of all, it makes a nice little print on the bottom. Looks like a little flower, especially the pop bottles. Those make a nice flower print on the bottom. But these also make fantastic paint cups. They are disposable. You don't have any mess to clean up later. If you want to recycle it, you can rinse out the paint and then recycle it. But if you happen to have a plastic bottle that you're getting rid of anyway, take a moment, cut it off, and keep these on hand to grab whenever you need them. They also make good glue cups if you ever need to pour out a lot of glue for your child to use. They're wonderful for that kind of thing. If you have yogurt cups, something like that, you can use that instead. Already cut, ready to go. Just wash it clean before you use it. This also would make a good stamper. Put a stamp on the bottom, a sticker on the bottom, and you can stamp. And totally side note, these also make good blocks. If you have different types of yogurt with their different shaped cups, you can use them as building blocks as well. So those are just a few of the many, many things that you can find around your house to paint with your child with. Something else, a different kind of painting where you can use different objects, is if you happen to have a box top or bottom, something like this, makes a great rolling surface. You simply take the paper or whatever it is you're using, put it in here, and then your child can pick the colors, put a few dollops of paint in here, and then take something and roll it around. If you have large marbles, again, you have to be careful of choking hazards with younger ones, but if you have large marbles, ping pong balls, you can put them in there, and then your child gets a little gross motor while they're rolling it around and smearing the paint. Add a second ping pong ball, a third, and see what happens. For different seasonal ways of doing this, right now you could put an apple in there and roll the apple around. Put some red and green and yellow paint in there. You can put a pumpkin in there and then talk to them. Why isn't it rolling all the way? What's happening? Why is it being stopped? In the springtime, how about a plastic egg? Put that in there and roll it around. So many different opportunities, so many different ideas that I can't even think of everything. So use these as a springboard and take it and do what you can with it. It's so much fun to come up with these different ways of painting with your child and different sensory experiences that they can have. Those are some of the tools that I had that you can use to paint with. Now surfaces, I talked about paper. We all know about paper. Can get expensive, can get wasteful. So to alleviate some shopping guilt, I like to use cardboard from the deliveries that I receive. This one, I was lucky enough, this was an insert, so it's already cut for me, but you can cut off the side of a box, the lid, anything. And then, like I said, it alleviates a little bit of your guilt from shopping and all these packages that are being delivered. It recycles what was in there, and it gives your child a different surface to try. Paper plates are also great if you happen to have any around the house. Lots of different things you can do with them, but a little trick when I'm using a paper plate, I like to use a clothespin, a chip clip, something like that, that I can hold with, and then, especially if you have, again, somebody that doesn't like to get that feeling of paint on them, they can hold it here, paint up here, then they can, or you can, move the clip when it's time to fill in that little bit of a space there. It's a great little holder to get them painting this way too, so they're getting their upper body involved instead of just always down like this. If you are looking for something more permanent, maybe you're planning a gift for somebody, Christmas gift, Thanksgiving present, birthday, something like this. You can get these pretty cheap at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, somewhere like that. And then you can make a nice permanent picture on here for somebody. You and your child can. A few different ideas are, maybe you have some masking tape, painter's tape. You can take strips of tape and you can create a design on here, maybe a tree. And then you can have the trunk and the branches, and then your child can come in with that piece of broccoli and they can paint the leaves on here. Then when you lift off the tape, you'll have the shape, especially if you paint around it. A great thing to do with that is a snowflake in the wintertime. You can take your piece of paper, take your tape, and then design a snowflake with the tape. Your child brushes all over the paper. When you remove the tape, you have the white snowflake, and maybe you chose blue, so you have a beautiful blue sky in the background. So the types of paint, if you're doing something like this, again, a permanent thing, acrylic is a good way to go. Only problem with acrylic, you can get them in these little sizes. You can get great deals at Hobby Lobby at Michael's. Only problem is it's kind of permanent. If it gets on the clothing, it's not going to come out. So then if you're just looking for fun around the house, definitely would be a washable paint would be the way to go for that. And always, there are watercolors. You can always use watercolors as well. A fun thing to do with watercolors is resist art. If you have a white crayon, they always come in the box and we can't do too much with them. This is where you can use those. On any color paper, you can write with a white crayon. It's more fun if you do it on white paper because then it's more of a surprise. You can write your child's name. You can write a message to them. They can draw a picture. Then paint over it with watercolor paint. The wax in the crayon will resist the paint. So the background will get painted, but your message, whatever you wrote on there, will show through. So those are some of the tricks, some of the ideas that I have for you. I'm sure you have many more. Get out there, have some fun with your child. Look around your house with them. Look for different objects and decide if it's something that you can use to paint with or not. Just keep in mind, even the washable paint might stain a little bit. So if you're going to choose something obviously that you don't mind it having a little bit of a tint to it or a little bit of paint stain on it if you can't get it all out. I hope these tips helped. I hope you have a lot of fun painting. And I will see you next time for more parent tips.